Hey everyone, welcome back. For today's deep dive, we're tackling a topic a listener requested. And let me tell you, we're really getting into the weeds on this one.
Definitely more of a deep dive than a casual dip.
For real, we're talking about a research paper, hardcore economic stuff, but it's got some juicy insights that I think we can all relate to.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so the paper is Financial Literacy, Financial Education, and Economic Outcomes. Catchy, right? From 2012 by Hastings, Madrian, and Skimmyhorn.
Big names in the field.
Right, and they're asking a really important question. How well can people actually manage their money in this day and age?
Which, let's face it, is a question a lot of us could probably stand to think about a bit more deeply.
Totally. And this paper, it doesn't beat around the bush. It dives right into some of the common and often costly financial mistakes that people make. Like, are you ready for this? A lot of people actually pass up on their employer's 401k match.
It's true. It's like leaving free money on the table.
I know, free money. Who does that?
Well, and it's not just a small amount either, potentially up to 1.6% of their annual pay. Imagine that. And it doesn't stop there, right?
Yeah.
We see people investing in funds with sky-high fees.
Oh, yeah, those hidden costs can really sneak up on you.
They really can. Or, how about this one? Missing out on the chance to refinance their mortgages when interest rates drop.
Ooh, that's gonna hurt. So it sounds like they're playing this high-stakes financial game without even knowing all the rules, but is it just like millionaires making these mistakes? Or are everyday people also falling into these traps?
That's the thing, it's not just the wealthy. This paper really drives home the point that financial slip-ups, they can affect anyone, regardless of their income.
It's a universal struggle.
It really is. And it points to a broader challenge a lot of us face. Maybe we're not as financially literate as we think we are.
Okay, so that brings up a big question. What exactly does financial literacy even mean? It's got to be more than just knowing how to balance a checkbook, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's so much more to it than that. And to really dig into it, this paper uses what they call the Big Three financial literacy questions. These are questions researchers use all over the world to get a handle on people's financial know-how.
Like a financial literacy quiz show? Hit me with it. What are they?
All right, so picture this. You've got $100 sitting in a savings account. It's earning a decent 1% interest. So far, so good, right?
Yeah. Sounds pretty straightforward. I'm earning interest. My money's growing.
But here's the catch. Inflation is also doing its thing, clocking in at 2%. So now the big question. After a year, can you buy more, less, or the same amount with your money?
Ooh. Okay, now it's getting tricky.
Right. It's designed to make you think.
It does make you think. So, like, are you telling me that less than half of people can figure that out?
It's pretty shocking, right? Less than half of Americans can answer all three of these basic financial literacy questions correctly.
Okay, that's a little concerning. I mean, if most people are struggling with these fundamental concepts, are any of us really equipped to deal with the complexities of the financial world today?
It's a valid concern. And it leads to another really important question, one that this paper tackles head on. Does teaching people about finances actually lead them to make better financial decisions? Like, if we just give everyone a crash course in money management, will that magically translate into sound financial behavior?
Well, you'd hope so, right? I mean, knowledge is power, isn't that what they say?
Yeah, that's the logical thinking.
Yeah.
But the research actually suggests that it's a lot more complicated than that. It turns out financial education programs, well, their effectiveness is kind of all over the place.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, some studies show that, yeah, people do learn a bunch of financial concepts. They can ace a quiz on compound interest, but their actual financial behavior, it doesn't budge. It's like they learned all this stuff in theory, but they're not applying it in their real lives.
So it's like passing your driving test with flying colors, but then forgetting to use your turn signal when you're actually behind the wheel. All theory, no action.
Exactly. And even in those rare cases where financial education programs do seem to move the needle a little bit, where there are some positive effects, they're often super small. And here's the other catch. They often fade over time.
So it's not a quick fix, a one-and-done solution to our financial woes. Speaking of which, I got to ask you about this one study this paper mentions, the one with the U.S. military. Talk about a crash course in compound interest A&D camouflage.
Oh, yeah, the military study. Right, so they basically rolled out this mandatory financial literacy course for new Army recruits. These are young folks fresh out of boot camp, ready to conquer the world and manage their finances responsibly.
Okay, so did it work? Did we create a generation of financially savvy soldiers?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The program, it actually did lead to a huge jump in their participation in savings plans. Way more soldiers were signing up for the military's version of a 401k, which is awesome.
Okay, that's huge. So financial education for the win. What's the but?
Well, here's the thing. While savings plan enrollment skyrocketed, other financial outcomes, they didn't really change much at all. Credit card debt, auto loans, all that stuff, it pretty much stayed the same.
So they were saving more but still struggling with debt. It's like they learned just enough to bake a cake but had no clue how to make a sandwich.
Perfect analogy. And it really highlights a crucial point. We need a lot more research on this, like a lot more, especially large-scale studies that can really clearly show a cause and effect relationship between financial education and actual long-lasting changes in behavior. We can't just assume that education alone will solve the problem.
Yeah, we need that deep dive level evidence. But let's be real here. This probably leaves our listener with a big old question. If education isn't the magic bullet we hoped for, what else can we do to improve these financial outcomes? We can't exactly force everyone to become a financial expert overnight.
You're absolutely right. It's not about tuning everyone into a Wall Street wizard or expecting them to suddenly become fluent in financial jargon.
Yeah.
But the paper does offer some really interesting alternative policy options, things that go beyond the traditional education approach.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on me. What are some of the ideas they're proposing?
Well, one idea that gets tossed around is smarter regulation. And by that, I mean stricter rules for financial products that tend to trap people in a cycle of debt. Things like payday loans or those credit cards with really confusing terms and conditions.
Okay, so like putting up some guardrails to keep people from falling into those financial pitfalls. I can get behind that.
Exactly. It's about making the financial world a little safer for everyone, leveling the playing field a bit. And another interesting idea they bring up is this concept of nudging.
Nudging. Okay, now you've got my attention. How do you nudge someone toward better financial decisions?
Think of it like a gentle push in the right direction. Not a shove, not a rule, just a little nudge.
Okay, I'm picturing like one of those elbow nudges, like, hey, psst, over here, make this smart choice.
Yeah, kind of. So a really good example of this is automatic enrollment in retirement savings plans.
Oh, right. Instead of having to sign up, you're automatically in and you have to go out of your way to opt out.
Exactly. People can always choose to opt out, but when they have to take action to not save, well, you'd be surprised how many just stay put. Inertia is a powerful force, my friend.
Oh, tell me about it. My workplace switched to auto enrollment a while back, and I can tell you it's way easier to just stay opted in. It really works. Are there any other financial nudges out there in the wild?
Well, the paper also highlights the power of clear fee disclosure as a kind of nudge, you could say.
Making sure those fees aren't buried in the fine print?
Exactly. They actually talk about a policy that was implemented in Mexico where financial institutions were required to be upfront and transparent about their fund fees. And guess what happened? It actually worked.
People saw those fees and said, no thanks.
Well, not exactly. But they were encouraged to seek out lower-cost options, which is the whole point, right? Turns out, when you remove the confusing jargon and make things super clear, people are often able to make more informed and often more cost-effective choices.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, who's going to pick the more expensive option when there's a cheaper, equally good option right there in front of them? And, this whole idea of making fees transparent, it kind of ties into something we've been circling around this entire episode. What if, instead of putting all the pressure on individuals to become financial gurus, we focused on making the financial system itself easier to understand and navigate?
Now you're talking. That's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
What if we could design a system that kind of naturally steers people toward good financial decisions, almost by default, even if they don't have a PhD in economics?
Exactly. It's like those trash cans you see with the basketball hoop attached. You don't need a whole lecture about the importance of proper waste disposal. You just naturally want to shoot your shot.
I love that analogy. So for our listeners who've been with us on this deep dive into the world of financial literacy, I think there are a few key takeaways to keep in mind.
For sure. We've covered a lot of ground here, from the big three financial literacy questions to those savvy soldiers over there in the U.S. Army. So what's the main takeaway, you think?
Well, first and foremost, we have to acknowledge that financial literacy is a lot more complex than just knowing the right answers to a few tricky questions. It's about understanding how the entire financial system works and having the knowledge and, importantly, the confidence to make informed decisions within that system.
And even though financial education is definitely important, it's not the be-all, end-all solution we might have hoped for. It's going to take a much more multifaceted approach. We need smarter regulation to protect people, those choice architectures, those nudges that steer us in the right direction. And maybe most importantly, we need clear, easy to understand information that empowers us all, regardless of our background or financial know-how, to take control of our financial lives.
100%. This research really has me thinking differently about how we can make the financial system work better for everyone, not just the experts.
Well said. And on that note, deep divers, we're going to leave you with this. Take a moment. Think about your own relationship with money. What are your biggest financial challenges right now? And how can the ideas we've talked about today, those alternative approaches, those nudges, help you navigate those challenges more effectively? Because let's be real, knowledge is only powerful if you actually use it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, deep divers,
Yeah.
stay curious.